Welcome to another episode of the Masterclass series of Entre Filmmaker. I'm a Shmuel, I'm a Shmuel host Hoffman. Man, this is like take 38 or 39. I can't nail that freaking intro. Anyway, today I'm super excited to have a great guest on this show, and I invited him because I think he's really an example of what it means to be a great filmmaker and on the other hand a super skilled businessman. A lot of filmmakers out there have a side job. They work as a waitress or they work at Walmart for minimum wage, and then they do the filmmaking or whatever on the side. And I think he is really a great example how to merge basically like being a filmmaker and an entrepreneur all together. And that's obviously the mantra here at Entre Filmmaker, to make a living from the work that we love. He is originally from Chicago. He moved a few months ago to Los Angeles in order to grow even bigger in his business. And you have to understand, his market is a super specific and small market, but extremely lucrative. So lucrative that he makes multiple six figures per year. So he will walk us through how he got in there and what to do so that you can basically emulate this and then really start making serious money and a good income with the work you love. And let's go. I want to hear what he has to say. Welcome, Thomas Roberts. How are you doing?
Hey, Shmuel. Thanks for having me.
So tell me, where did you start? I mean, you're dominating in that niche, and you will tell, us all about it. So, walk us through.
When in college, I studied film and business. And right after school, my first job after college was in LA. I was colorizing black and white movies. Right. Well, that lasted for a good year. And, with no real mentorship, no real people above me to ask questions, being in LA out of college, it's completely directionless. You either got to be in the party scene, you got to be in the Hollywood scene, or you just do menial tasks and work your way up. Right. Well, I was going broke, and it was just a real difficult challenge.
Wait, how did you get broke? I want to know.
Well, I was colorizing black and white movies. It was an hourly, system, hourly wage. I figured, it was going to get me into the union, get me into the business, and they eventually shut down production in Southern California and moved everything down to Mexico. Here I was without a job, right out of college, looking at, ungodly amounts of rent, mortgage. Where am I going to figure out some student loans? I went back home.
So basically back to, the basement.
Yeah, I did that. And I ended up interning, looking at, becoming a physician's assistant. So I got involved with a group of cardiologists in Florida. And I ended up having an impromptu interview with the guy that would eventually hire me, and I got into medical imaging. And interestingly enough, I did that for probably 15 years. And I turned my last company into my first client.
We have been in touch already for quite some time. I just want to give quickly everyone a background. We found each other actually on Twitter, and we followed up with each other over time, and I saw your career really like going off. And tell me about this, like about super niche, because I'm a strong believer in super niche. How did you come about it, and what is a super niche for you?
How I got into my super niche is, I worked for Siemens Medical for a number of years, and I worked in several companies within that technology, medical imaging, ultrasound technology. I started out as a product specialist, and then got onto sales, and then it got onto the sales level on a VP level. So I was really, enjoying that. But my last company, they laid me off. And I turned them into my first client.
Meaning Siemens, right?
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. Because I saw an opportunity as far as what they were doing and how they needed video for trade shows, for sales and marketing. And because they knew me as an insider, I was able to walk right in and say, hey, you know what? Let's do these videos and we can produce these for you.
How did you decide that you wanted to work in that field, that you created that super niche for yourself?
I studied filmmaking in college. I studied television and film. And if I didn't work in that industry, I wouldn't have had the sales and business experience and the marketing experience to do what I'm doing now. you also need to have a good level of business and business training with you because you just can't, there's how to create a sales funnel, how to market, how to, just really communicate on that VP level, that executive level. That's where my expertise came in. If I hadn't worked for those medical companies, I wouldn't know how to approach them, how to contact them, how their business process, how their sales process worked.
So what you're basically saying is, when someone is, doing either filmmaking on the side or has that as a hobby, but still has a day job, instead of just, enviously looking over there, oh, the filmmakers, the film industry, and the ad agency industry where they make, those commercials, basically look around you and see what's available. And if you work in your day job, and you figure out, oh, they have some needs of advertising and maybe, their website doesn't have a video. Basically to go out and say, hey, I do those things on the side and, can I make something for you? That would be a great kind of, entry, first, for your portfolio, but not only that, for your current job, you add much more value. So trusted relationships, that's the keyword, right? Basically work with your relationship you have established already. Is that correct?
And just to take that even further, if I didn't have the relationships, they wouldn't have had the trust in me to go out and interview doctors, interview cardiologists, interview high-level people because I had those established relationships.
When people sign up for my, whatever I call it, newsletter, but it's not really a newsletter, being part of this community, and, I respond back to them, hey, what are you struggling most at the moment, in order to figure out, how can I be, of great value to them. A lot of answers, replies come back and they say, yeah, I'm sitting here and I don't get any business. So basically, what would be, your advice in getting business? And, what would you tell those people?
I just met with a guy. He's a time-lapse guy, and he's very aggressive about his business. He sends out 10 to 15 emails a day just to contact people. It's like, hey, this is who I am. This is my website. This is my work, and that's how we get business. He goes out and he goes out and just connects with people.
So what you're basically saying is kind of do the client or job search on your terms. Don't, sit around and wait for the phone call till they hire you again, right? I have a friend who's a DP, and he complains that he has very little work. And I asked, "What are you doing?" "Yeah, I'm actually waiting for those phone calls." And basically, your approach is more like, I want to define with whom I want to work with, and therefore I'm going out and seek those people and offer, myself. I offer my services. Is that correct?
Right. And even another level, when I moved here to LA last year, I actually connected with a mentor. Now, this lady would have cost thousands of dollars to do, just to sit with her. Okay. But, we worked out a deal. She loved me, just fantastic lady. She's got her MBA. She's semi-retired. And we sat and we would have like these business discussions. Okay. The scenario 1, what are you going to do? Scenario 2, what are you going to do? And we would sit and talk and we would just like, okay, she knows nothing about filmmaking, web video, Vimeo, the tools, that's all nonsense to her. But she knows business. She knows what it takes to get a deal, to follow up on a deal, and to close a deal. I got to tell you, that helped me land some big deals last year, having that third party come in and look at me.
So you're basically putting something between you and procrastination and setting up a relationship where someone, is kind of helping you and you are accountable towards your goals or actions, right?
Yeah, you got to have somebody accountable. You've got to have someone you're going to tell, okay, my goals for 2014 is XYZ. This is what I'm going to do. I have weekly goals, monthly goals, quarterly goals. I set those out. It's kind of funny. Right before we were talking, I have this little client book that I use, and this is what we pull out. We take these notes and we write up. We check off stuff as we get things done. So, and it's not online. It's an actual paper. We go for coffee. We sit down for 60 minutes. I get my butt kicked. If I didn't follow up, the impact of that is my home. Things aren't going to get paid. Things aren't going to get, purchased. Everything that we did last year was, we really got a fine-tuned machine where, you're accountable to someone. So I'm accountable to my wife, who is my business partner. Now, she doesn't have an active role in the business. She does all of our our CPA stuff, so I get free CPA work. But as far as her insider information with the business, it's fantastic. And then my mentor, having someone outside of the company look in at me, that's huge. I mean, that's something, when I started my business, my previous manager, who and I are still best friends, we actually will get together once a month and I'll say, hey, John, I got this deal going on. What do you think? And this is exactly what I did when I sold medical equipment. So it's kind of funny. Now he's advising me on my filmmaking stuff.
I have also my goals, so that just that you guys don't think I make it up. So I write down also my let's say my short-term goals, in the next few days, weeks, months, and then, long-term goals, 5 or 10 years, just that I know what I'm working for.
And it's something we did this year, 2014, as opposed to last year. We look at this stuff every other day. It's not once a week now. It's every other day.
Nice.
The guy that wrote 10X, Grant Cardone, probably the best book I've ever written for business. If you guys need to buy that book, go out and buy that book. He just really will, if you don't have any sales background or marketing background or just organizing yourself to succeed, it's an excellent book.
1 second, Thomas. Let me just rephrase, the book for our audience. It's called The 10X Rule, The Only Difference Between Success and Failure by Grant Cardone. So what is the specific goal that you have right now?
I have a very specific goal I'll share with you. I believe for a deal to come in every 2 weeks at a certain dollar price point. How does it happen? Well, I look at it every day and I figure out what do I need to do in my 8 to 10 hours or 12 hours a day of work. I've got kids too. I got to pick up my kids in the day. So that's part of my schedule. When I'm not traveling, I'm home. So yeah, very specifically, I expect to get a deal every 2 weeks.
Let's just back up. How should someone, where do we find those connections, the people that led us then basically to to close deals basically, and in your case it's like a lot of deals you're closing. So where do we find those people?
Let me share with you something I just recently started to use, and that's LinkedIn. I no longer connect with peers. I try to connect with people who can introduce me to business. So these are executive people. So I'm showing little screen grabs of my work. I'm showing links to videos. And I just started that because I've been crazy about Twitter. I love Twitter. Twitter has been very good to me. But LinkedIn, I want to because of my financial goals, I want to target companies. I want to target people that are extended from my medical imaging world. LinkedIn is extremely powerful for business relationships. So that's the virtual, okay? What I did when I left the medical companies I worked with, I always kept my business cards, just find where those people are. You've got friends, you've got houses of worship. I mean, I go to a fairly large church here in Southern California, and they actually have business seminars. I've been able to meet clients there that I would have never met in other venues. I have an ideal client, an ideal customer that I want to work with. They're in this type of business. They make this amount of money a year, and they have money set aside for marketing and sales. And from that money, it's existing money, not new money. I can play within that pile of money they have to work for marketing, sales, or promotions, because that's where they can pull for web videos.
I remember that when we talked last time, you mentioned your business card hack. Can you walk us through?
Yeah, I like how you use hacks for everything. Well, this is something I learned from being in the medical field for a number of years, teaching doctors, selling to doctors, and then marketing to companies. Now, I'm a filmmaker. Bottom line, that's my passion. I love the gear. I love the technology. I keep on top of that just like you. But when I talk to customers, they don't care about the nerdy component. They want to see me as a peer. This is something I learned selling to doctors. They want to see you as a peer. Obviously, I'm not an MD, but I present myself as a professional. Well, positioning yourself as a business person in the community as a filmmaker is huge because it takes you out of the creative side and the business side. One of the things a lot of people will see as a weakness is I can't sell, I can't talk to people. If you want to grow your business, if you want to make a living out of it, you need to sell, you need to present yourself. So here's my hack. On my business card, it doesn't say DP, filmmaker, or director. It just says new business development. Now, what's new business development? I have years of experience as a new business development person. When my people see that I'm targeting, they know exactly what that is. It's a code word for sales. It's a code word for growing your business. They understand that I'm growing business for my company, so it's not a threat. I'm not a creative trying to take money from them. I'm bringing them information. So on my card, it says sales and new business development. Even though I wear the hat as a director, shooter, audio guy, in the business side of it, on dealing with multi-million-dollar clients, you wear a suit, you wear a watch, you look at their corporate culture and you attack their culture as, as an insider, not as an outsider.
So this is basically kind of a different way of trust building, right?
I don't lie, don't recreate something that's not there. Yeah, but there's a lot of good labels you can attach to yourself on your business card that business people will appreciate. My comment to you is, you can't always use yourself as a director or as a camera guy because they think that they can run out to Craigslist or some bottom feeder type place and pick up someone, hey, I have a cousin or I have a nephew or I have a son-in-law that does this. And then you're competing on that low level as opposed to, hey, I'm the VP of my company or I'm the director of sales or I'm marketing for XYZ company. Just that subtle thing can change the way people respond to you. When you send email to somebody in a company, make sure you can CC that person on the email, another person. So you have two people you're sending it to. Because you and I both know, CYA, nobody wants to look bad for not responding to an email. So one of the things as you start to market to these bigger companies, get as many people involved in the process. And when you send emails, attach it to one or two people. Sending one email out, one guy, you send me an email, I'll look at it, I might not respond to you. You send my name and Shmuel's name on it, okay, I want to make sure I look good in front of Shmuel.
So just to rephrase, basically you send it out to two people in the organization as high up as possible, CEO, CFO, whatever, or marketing director, and you make it so that they can see that they were CC'd at each other. So the likelihood is that you get a reply is much higher as if you would just send it off, to just one dude. Now, when you do those things, obviously, you send a lot of emails to people and cold emails and you have warm leads and so on. What are you doing about like client management and, how do you keep track, on all of that?
So here's an example. When I worked for Siemens, we had X amount of clients we had to have in our sales funnel. The sales funnel is somebody we've talked to, we've identified as, yeah, we can do business with them, i.e. They might be interested in working on a video in the next 12 months. So we'd figure out, they want to do a film in the next 30 days, 60 days, 9 months, 12 months. So you kind of prioritize where they are and then put them up on your list. Simply start with an Excel spreadsheet. Thomas Roberts, company XYZ. This project is worth $5,000, December. And then work backwards. And then so all of a sudden you'll see your numbers come up, okay? And from that, depending on how you're able to close or get people to agree with you on a contract, you can estimate for the next year how much business you're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you can then use those metrics also to determine who is your most valuable customer, and then also reward them accordingly, whether it's with gifts or sending them special offers or whatever. What are you doing about the other ones? Let's say we often have in our pipeline clients who haven't still decided to do business, or where we haven't closed the deal actually yet. Are we going on to communicate to them? What are you doing?
I always say the rule is, until they tell you no or get out of my face, just keep communicating with them. That's why I'm liking LinkedIn, because now what I've succeeded with Twitter is, I've have become sort of this indie film person that people look for content. I try to find fun content, interesting content. Now what I'm doing on LinkedIn is I'm trying to find good content to share with these decision makers. Oh yeah, I got a guy on Twitter, Thomas Roberts, and his company, here's some things that he said that we might be able to do. So I'm trying to be very strategic over the next 90 days.
What do you mean by strategy? How do you use LinkedIn strategically?
Number one, you have access to their phone number and email if they're in your circle. That's huge, okay? Half the time going into a company, can I talk to Thomas Roberts? He's director of marketing. No, it's simple as that. Right. You can't walk in. So, looking through LinkedIn, and that whole, selection process, the longer you're on it, you'll start to build, relationships and build within your community. Right. But that goes back to the whole super niche. I've focused in on that, on two or three industries that I've made my living at the last few years.
So LinkedIn is basically a networking tool, but you know, take it to the next level. You actually run events, right? As I understood.
In Chicago, I did a lot of small business, you know, and that really helped me define, okay, these guys are not my ideal customer because they don't have budgets, they don't have yearly sales. So I started tweaking it so I know what my ideal customer is, what departments I need to go after. I've really dialed it in. On the networking, I try to go over, you know, who's going to be there if I can find out. And there's, you know, a bunch of different sites you can figure out who has the networking events, meetup.com. Meetup.com will be mostly small business. But where I go to is I try to figure out the major trade shows and those events, you know, where my companies are going to come to because I know, number one, I've identified, hey, they're going to spend money going there, so they have marketing dollars set aside. I'll either pay, you know, and these conventions and seminars I go to, they cost money, so that's part of my budget to go out and get sales.
Let me just challenge you on that. Because, you know, I read in multiple publications, business publications, that going to those events, to those business events, is really a huge time waster because, you know, in an environment where everybody is needy, where everybody is wanting something from each other, it doesn't, you know, give like a ground, a healthy soil for genuinely growing relationships. And business is trust. Business is, you know, having a relationship with each other, and as opposed to, let's say, you meet each other in leisure situation where it's much easier to establish actually a business connection. For example, you know, golf clubs or tennis clubs. That's why they are actually there in the first place, in order to have something else to focus on than just selling yourself or, you know, business itself. So how do you address that, you know, with your networking meetings?
Let me first of all agree with you. A lot of networking is a waste of time because what I've been able to dial into is industry specific events. Okay, so I know that the industries I'm targeting based on my ideal client. All right, I know what my ideal client looks like because I had 4 experiences last year and they were all based on these guys were not my ideal client. Okay, so number 2, with targeting industry specific events, I look at, you know, I make sure those marketing people are going to be there. I look at, you know, those salespeople might be there. So they're a little bit more refined and niched as far as that's what works for me. Because the at-large networking events, the meetup.com, sometimes they work, but mostly for my client expectations, those are not where I target. You know, but a lot of guys might start out with the small businesses. There's nothing wrong with doing a restaurant deal, you know, for $1,000 or whatever, just to start out, get your stuff on a reel, you know. I don't have a problem. And when I started out, I was doing a lot of deals. I was very creative. You know, we flipped a lot of deals to get started. You know what it's like. But now I'm treating it as a business. I'm very focused because my goals, which we talked about, are very specific. Right. So getting back to networking events, number 1, I try to target industry-specific events, and I, you know, Google my industry, find out what's going on. You know, there's cities all over the country where these conventions and meetups are. When they have after-hour events, they have conferences. I try to attend. You know, like I try to attend those throughout the year.
Let me just interrupt this for a moment. So you basically mean that in your or where you are looking for networking is actually not like where industry same people come in or where people are there in order to give each other jobs. You're going basically to kind of shows, trade shows, where they show rather things like equipment or the latest stuff in the industry. And over there, you kind of meet those people and you network over there. So it's kind of, as I understood from you, away from this I want something, but rather I come in and, you know, hopefully add some value.
A few years ago, I went to a weekend conference. The guy I was sitting next to was a doctor. I didn't know him. He introduced me by his first name. He was very low key. We ended up having lunch, and he said, "Hey, you know, found out I was a filmmaker." He said, "What do you think about this, this, and this?" And I said, "Well, here's what I would do." I offered him what I would do, and he ended up hiring me for. We're talking about some new work for this year. So it's all relationship based. You know, don't go out, don't hard sell. You know, just present a solution.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Now, let's just quickly, you know, go back to our initial topic, you know, super niche. Now, obviously, we don't want to stay in this super niche and we want to grow bigger, we want to grow the business.
That's a great question because I have some very specific objectives for being here in LA. And it's interesting because you could see the power. And I'll give you an example of someone I just heard about today. They learned how to do time lapse. They're a wedding photographer. They made a short little video, and then all of a sudden they've got 6,000 views on it because they were experimenting, they were learning it. And from that one video, she's got some opportunities to do some other videos.
So basically, thanks to social media, right? That we are not stuck anymore like 20 years ago where Web 2.0 and social media wasn't really around, and someone was stuck in their niche. And I think a great example is Patrick and Still Motion, pretty high-end wedding videographers, and then they grew out of that niche because they posted a lot online and people saw it, and then they were hired by Apple making commercials, or the NFL and working for some networks. So social media gives us really this amazing tool today. Now, when we think about a lot of time passes in general when we start business. Now we are here where we are today. Now for you personally, with everything if you could go back in time, is there anything you would have done differently?
That's a great question. And going back to my early days in my career, you can always look back and say, hey, I would have done this differently. But I got to tell you, I think, knowing that there are people that want to help you and want to mentor you. I mean, there's, different periods in my life. I could have had, a really good mentor, but I didn't seek it out. So I think right now, as where I am in business, having that third-party validation and that third-party criticism and that third-party look at what you're doing, that's huge. You got to have that. I mean, it's great for my wife and I as a couple, but also someone outside to look at our business.
Yeah, we push that off.
Yeah.
Lastly, next projects. What's up the pipeline? What are you excited about in the next coming months, years?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Every year, the last 3 years, I've tried to learn something new. 2013, I started, I put a tweet out, hey, I want to learn time-lapse, and somebody followed up with me. And I'm really getting into time-lapse cinematography as far as a business tool in the niches I'm working in. Where I'm at, I have some very specific goals as far as, where I want to grow the business. I want to bring some guys on here in LA. I'd like to have an actual physical office. We've looked at some facilities here. Right now we have a location in Santa Monica, but I want to have like a permanent location. So yeah, I mean, we want to have some stability here. And then finally, the big thing for me is, we want to connect with some, I'm building my reel. Because I've done such a super niche job at, being in the super niche, a lot of these clients have said no to sharing my work. So now on Vimeo, I'm very aggressive and focused on showing my work so people can see my work outside of that niche. And that goes to, I can support that new business with my business experience and, just the experience I've had over the last few years.
Lastly, where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
On Twitter. That's the best place to reach me, TR Studios.
Thomas, thank you very, very much. So guys, go ahead, go on Twitter and follow Thomas there, TR Studio, and, friend him, and he's a really great and responsive guy over there. Thank you so much for sharing all of this.
It was a pleasure. It's kind of funny. It's kind of uncomfortable being on the other side of the interview, but thank you. You did a great job, dude.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All the best.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So if you like, more of this stuff, whether it's the MasterClass series or, my hacks that I present here bi-weekly, just scroll down below in the opt-in box, put your name in there, your email address, and then you will be one of the first to know when the next show is coming up. This is Untitled Filmmaker. My name is Shmuley Hoffman, and thank you so much for watching. I'm absolutely serious. You are the reason why I'm doing this, and thank you so much for all your support and being here with me. All the best. Bye.